Okay, go whenever you're ready.
Hey, this is international bestseller Michael Brent Collings from bestsellerlife.com, and you are listening to Vroom, Vroom, Veer with Jeff Smith, reminding you to check out bestsellerlife.com, check out my books on Amazon, and become your own best story.
Boom. I love it. All right, let me hit stop. I'll be right back.
Are you ready to thoughtfully steer away from your revved up, frenzied, and far too often scripted life? Then welcome to Vroom Vroom Veer with Jeff Smith, where he guides you down the road differently traveled by sharing unique experiences with guests who have managed to shift away from a life stuck on cruise control and veered their way into a more authentic and fulfilling one in all sorts of interesting and kind of remarkable ways. Get ready to Vroom Vroom Veer with your differently traveled road chauffeur, Jeff Smith.
Dr. Jenny Quartano, thank you so much for being on Vroom Vroom Veer and welcome to the show. How's it going?
Going great. Thank you for having me today.
Your hair's not all frizzy, so you didn't go to the beach yet.
No. Well, I've got this stick straight hair that looks like this no matter what. So I guess that's a blessing when you live in some place like Florida where it's humid all the time.
Yeah.
So I don't have that problem.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. That's one thing I don't have to worry about, right?
There you go.
I'll count that blessing.
You don't have to shop and you don't have to mess with your hair.
I know. I don't. Yeah, that's right.
Excellent. So you are at alltogetherwellness.net. So talk a little bit about what you're most excited about today in your business and your life in general.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's such a fun question to answer because we've been growing and serving more families, which is what excites me. So being able to help people find their village and find their health and overcome the obstacles that they're facing every day and not just survive, right? We find so many families who are just living, but they aren't really enjoying and thriving. And so our mission and our role is to change that. And we've been doing a lot of that lately. So that's fun.
I love it.
Yeah.
Get off the couch.
Right. Just enjoy it. I don't want you to be tired and bored and just muddling through life. That's not a way to live.
No, Get up, enjoy, move. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's get into this. This is Vroom Vroom Veer. So that means that we have to go back in time and talk about Jenny before she was Dr. Jenny.
Okay.
So where did you grow up? Did you grow up in Florida?
No, I grew up in Wisconsin. Go Packers. That's about the only thing up there, but go Packers.
Right.
Enjoy football and not a lot of cold weather, which is how I ended up in Florida. So,
amen. So what part of Wisconsin did you grow up in?
So actually just outside of Green Bay, one of the little towns right around the city. Yeah. So our claim to fame, my grandparents had season ticket holders. They were like one of the first people to have the ticket. So they've been passed down through generations. Yeah.
So you might even know where I'm from. So that's a little scary.
Yeah. Where
maybe.
is that?
So have you ever heard of a small town called Menominee, Michigan?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's where people go to hunt deer and stuff.
Yeah, of course. My brother actually went to school up in the Upper Peninsula too. So we couldn't be more polar opposite. He was in like 20 feet of snow up in Marquette and I was down here. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. Good for you. Hey, and you escaped Wisconsin. So that's great.
I did. Yeah. I told my mom when I was a teenager that I was going to live at the beach one day. And she was like, okay, sure. And then I finished grad school and took a job at the beach. And she was like, wait, you were serious.
You actually did it.
Yeah.
Every time I go home, I give all of my family grief and I don't let them whine about the weather because they're choosing to live there.
Yeah, true.
You're free and you're allowed to move. So if you don't like it, leave.
But there are some really cool things about up there that
great.
I miss.
Yeah.
I would never want to live there, but there are some cool things about it.
It's a great place to visit. And I always go in the summertime.
Yes, me too. Not after November.
No, I don't like that white stuff.
No.
In high school growing up, I just remember like hanging around, and how the winters just seem like forever, especially when you're a kid. And just looking around at the bleakness of the frozen tundra, and you're like, I got to get out of here.
I know. And I mean, seasonal affect disorder is a real thing,
it's a real
right?
deal.
Like,
yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
okay.
It's good to be out. Yeah.
So you grow up in Wisconsin and you decide to go to college and be a doctor right away, or how did that work out?
I did. I was one of those kids that I think I knew from little on. I was going medical route. I actually decided that in middle school as well. I was a very opinionated child. Apparently I kept true to most of those things.
Good for you.
But I did. I jumped right in and finished college in 3.5 years and went right into grad school and knew exactly that was the path I wanted to be on. But I've changed since then, right? So it's just a degree. It got me where I am, but I definitely do something a little different, and my life to this point has definitely led me there.
So where did you go to school? Did you go to school in Florida or?
Yeah, no, actually.
No.
So I went to University of Wisconsin for undergrad.
Okay.
And then grad school at Mayo in Minnesota. And so that's how I ended up in Florida. So they have if you're not familiar, they have a Florida branch of the program or whatever. So Arizona, Florida, and Minnesota. So they sent me here in December to do a clinical. So I got here on like December 30th and was here through March and drove home in a literal snowstorm, like, the cars in the ditch on either side of the road. And my boyfriend at the time said, "Why the hell does anybody live here?" I was like, you come back in August, know. And so, I went back for 3 months and finished school and turned right around and drove back to Florida.
And Florida's great. I know Florida takes a lot of heat for, all the different reasons. Outside the fact that it is really super muggy all the time, it is pretty awesome.
It is. And we're in Jacksonville. I feel like it's a well-kept secret in terms of like, we're at the beach, we're kind of tucked away. We're not in Miami and all the crazy, although it's gotten crazy here too. But,
anywhere where there's nice weather, it's going to get crazy, I think.
It is. Yeah. And I feel like the last couple of years, the political environment has only added to that. So it's been interesting. For sure. But,
You can't escape it.
Nope.
Go overseas, maybe.
Right.
Go live in Japan. That's awesome.
That's about it.
Okay. So the big veer in your life is something went wrong after you finished college and then you started your practice. So let's get a little into that.
So, I was really blessed. I moved into a medical system that was great. It was growing. I was serving people. I was learning a lot right out of grad school, and I still am there a few hours a week. But, through that experience, and I was super blessed to go from having a great experience as a clinician, being able to do a residency, managing a large program at a really young age, and then being able to move over to the education side and continue to train people, which was my passion, was to share and to grow.
Okay.
Simultaneously was running through my own personal issues of, I'm 28 years old. I feel like I'm 40. I'm gaining weight. I'm not sleeping. Like, I'm having a terrible time at home. Like, my now ex-husband and I were having all kinds of troubles. And I realized, like, I've got to make some changes. Like, this just isn't healthy. This isn't who I want to be at 28. This isn't who I want to be at 50.
Right.
And then simultaneously realizing this is the same situation, or not same, but very similar with a lot of the families I was working with, right? We've got moms who are overwhelmed, trying to juggle a household and a job and aren't taking care of themselves, and in turn then aren't taking care of their families because they don't have the energy or the knowledge or the combination to do that.
Right.
And so my big swerve was really in that finding myself and finding my health, and then appreciating that I wanted to do that with more people.
I get it.
Yeah.
So I went through something very similar. So like, I want to say like my late 30s, I noticed things like, when I was hanging out with my buddies and we're all active duty and we're brewing beer. It takes a long time to brew beer as a hobby, by the way. So you got to stand there, right? I didn't want to stand there. Because my feet hurt, And it didn't really strike me until I went on this, like, have you ever been to Portland, Oregon?
I have not. It's on my list, but I haven't been there.
It is one of the best, like, public transportation cities.
Yeah, sure.
Right? So you can go there and totally not rent a car, right? Mm-hmm. You can just walk to the train station. You can walk to the bus stop and you're cool, right? Yep. I knew that going in there. And I went and did this, like, thing with some friends. And as I'm walking around just to get to bus stop, train station, whatever, right? My feet are just, I can't do it.
Yep.
And I'm like, what is wrong with me? I'm not 80. There's something, and so I went through like this whole, like, reimagining everything. It was really like, I would say it started with like cleaning up my diet a lot.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Finding all the hidden sugar and everything, all the
and
food.
It's in everything.
It's all the food. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about like your journey as far as like, what did you go through?
Yeah. So, I feel like kind of backing up a step. The other frustrating part was I had been to the doctor, right? I'd been to both my primary care and my OBGYN and was like, I don't know. I'm just not myself. I mean, am I depressed? I don't think so. Am I this?
Right.
They really didn't have any solutions for me. It was just kind of like, well, your labs look normal. Everything's fine. You're good. But I didn't feel good. I really didn't. I was like, I'm not fine. It's not fine.
No.
This is not 28. If this
I'm
is
a doctor, I know
this.
I'm not okay.
yeah, absolutely.
That's great.
And so I had joined a gym actually with a friend who was just a few months postpartum. And I felt like I was like barely keeping up with her. She's like, oh, I'm going to hold you back. I'm like, no, you're not. So we started on this journey together, but really a couple months into that, they did a challenge at our gym. I thought, I'll bite. This will be fun. It's a competition. There's some money involved, a little prize, right? So there was talk about cleaning up your diet. No gluten, no soy, no dairy, no sugar, no alcohol, no corn, no fun, right? Like nothing fun.
Wait.
For 8 weeks. Yeah. So much so that I did a retreat for work during that time. We had a management retreat and they said, any dietary restrictions? And I said, no gluten, no soy, no dairy, no sugar, no corn. And they said, we just got you your own suite, bring your own food. And I was like, yeah, okay. So, I think going through that whole process of changing my diet was huge. There was a requirement to work out every day, which again, doesn't sound that big of a deal, but when you actually commit to doing it, there's no days to like sit on the couch and say, I can't, even if that meant a walk, even if I wasn't feeling like,
wow,
I needed to do something. I had to do something. This is part of the challenge. Right.
Wow.
And I'm a little competitive. So there was that. You had to sleep 8 hours every night. So there was no like working late. I'll do it tomorrow.
Good. You're hitting all the points here.
I'm right. And that was the thing, right? At the time, I didn't realize lifestyle medicine. This is what I practice now, but I wasn't at the time putting that all together. There was meditation. You had to do that every day. So some component of meditation and stretching. And you could combine those, but like they had to be done. And there was a couple of other things, but basically hitting all the high points, like stress management, sleep, diet.
Sleep, diet is huge.
Right,
moving.
right.
Yeah. Right.
All the things. And so 2 months of that, and I was like a whole new person. I had lost a ton of weight, inches, but more so, I had my energy back. I was sleeping phenomenally. I was working out every day. I was crushing my workouts. And so it was just very eye-opening to me that like, I knew this stuff mattered, right? I have my doctorate. I know that matters, but it didn't really resonate with me just how that mattered until I went through it. And so that was it. That was the kicker. I wanted to make sure everybody knew.
That's great. Yeah. So like, I think I went through so many different things. I think the real big deal for me was probably the diet piece.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, you just try to unfortunately, I didn't do any sort of challenge. The only challenge I did was I tried to do, what did I do? I saw this movie called Fat, Lazy and Nearly Dead or something like this. Australian guy. Yeah, it was a documentary. It was this rich Australian dude, right? Mm-hmm. It was like Fat, Sick and Nearly Dead or something like that. But you can go find it. It's kind of silly and dated at this point. But the gist of it was he was drinking nothing but juiced vegetables and fruits.
Okay.
And so his recommendation was just do that, go on like a juice reboot. Okay. So I don't think the juice is really all that smart in the end. Because you're losing all the fiber, right? I switched to smoothies, right?
Okay. All right.
But it was a good sort of like what they say. It's just like a reboot, right?
It's a reboot.
While you're doing this juice thing, I'm not eating like all the sugar and all the crap and all the junk food, right?
Right.
So, and finding like where sugar is hiding, it's like literally everywhere. Right?
Yep,
I went and like looked at Starbucks and I was like, is there anything I can eat here? I was like, maybe that meat and cheese thing, but probably maybe not.
Probably not. Yeah, I know. It's wild.
Yeah. So then, So you feel better.
I feel fantastic.
Right.
And I have since. I mean, that is many, many years ago at this point, right?
Right.
But then really taking that, I was appreciating the time I was in a role where I was educating other clinicians, right? And the stress they were going through for this intense program. and the outcomes of, not sleeping well and being stressed. And yes, you can do anything for a short amount of time, but I was like, this isn't healthy either, right? Like, I want to be somewhere where I can help people be healthy, live their best lives, right? I think this builds on itself. And thankfully, I found this in my 20s. You found it in your 30s. I look at my parents' generation, they haven't found it yet,
No.
And so I want to change that for generations to come. I look at my own 3-year-old and the things he enjoys that, my parents did the best with what they knew.
Right.
But I want to do it different. And I want to be able to do that for families too.
Right. Yeah. I take a lot of grief. Like, I think like generally people out there that like are still, doing standard American diet lifestyle is what I like to call it. If they see you drinking something like a green smoothie, they think you're a weirdo.
Yeah. Yeah.
They don't even taste bad,
No, and I've come to just think, I will educate anybody who wants to know about it, but the people who are just going to call me a weirdo, like, that's okay. You do you. Exactly. Come see me in 10 years.
That's right. That's right.
When you're so miserable, you don't know what else to do. Come see me.
It's sad. It is. It's sad.
It is. So, yeah. And what's wild is, coming from a healthcare background myself, the biggest patient population I have right now is other healthcare workers, right? Especially with the season we went through in COVID and the intense stress and the psychological component that went along with that, paired with, whether you're talking about nursing or therapy, I think they're most of the day run from patient to patient. Stress level is here. Right. Eating is here, right?
Right.
And maybe they've not used the bathroom all day because that's what that environment allows. And they're like, I don't know why I've got all these problems. I'm like, I do. I can tell you exactly what's wrong.
Right.
So being able to change healthcare through the changes for these folks, right? As you learn, you do better with your clients too.
Yeah. And I think probably as a group, now you brought it up, so I'll ask a question, right?
Yep.
Like, as a group, I think healthcare people in general, not great at self-care.
No, not at all. Not great at self-care, not great at being healthy, right? Like we're great on the medical side of things and we're great at taking care of other people. I think we absorb a lot of that, right? And so I think that's a bigger issue too, is there are so many feelers in that group, right? That they take home the stress of every day and stress of the healthcare environment. And they're sick. They're sicker than their patients sometimes, but they keep going every day. And
so
for sure.
So what sorts of things, instead of like, I know you've got this practice and you've got like a whole bunch of PTs and other sorts. So let's talk a little bit about like the village that is your practice, because it's amazing. Like, you got like yoga instructors, lots
Love
of PTs. Yeah, me too. It's great.
Yeah. So my vision really was to create a place where, I came from a background as a pediatric therapist, right? So I was working with kids and being in the home, realizing if mom wasn't thriving, nobody was thriving. These things weren't happening. The kids weren't getting better. There wasn't therapy being done. They were eating poorly, not on a routine, and everything else. And so being able to bring that all under one roof to not only help the kids, but be able to help the moms. I was doing so much coaching in my sessions because that was important for the child's outcome, right? And for them to be able to grow and learn and do the things they were doing. The reality was so much of it was addressing the parents and the habits that they had, whether those were the habits in the kitchen of what they were serving or the habits of just picking their child up and doing it for them when their child really needs to practice, right? And so all of those things were part of what I was doing. And so my vision was to create a bigger team, to offer a bigger space to do more of that, to change health for generations to come. I mean, I just think we need a village. And right now we've got a lot of village idiots. Like, you don't want that person helping you. You want the team that knows and the outcomes you're looking for.
So I can tell a story. So like I did massage school after I retired from the Air Force.
Okay.
So after I learned how to do Swedish and shiatsu, I took a couple of months off and then I went back and there was this more clinical version.
Okay.
And it was about 8 months and it was all about like neuromuscular therapy. So like trigger point therapy, right?
Sure.
And that at the end of it, right, they would teach you how to do these sort of like assessments, like, right? So somebody comes in and says, it hurts here. Right. And then you would go walk them through these sort of like movements and tests and things like that. and then write things down and then say, okay, I'm making a list of maybe possible muscles that might be involved that might need therapy, right? Turns out this job does not exist for a massage therapist.
I was going to say, this sounds like a PT. I think it's very interesting, but yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So as a massage therapist, there's no place that you can do that job. Maybe I've heard that, like, you know, those pain clinics that basically just focus on car wrecks and stuff.
Yep.
So they'll have like MTs too. And those MTs will learn some of the schools that the chiros go to.
Yeah.
Right. So they'll maybe learn the thing that the chiro knows how to do, but he can't say you're doing it because only chiros can do that.
Yes. Yep. Totally.
Active release technique or whatever they call it. Right.
Yep.
But that's kind of what we were doing. Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So I took that, and then I also at the same time was doing yoga.
Okay.
And my yoga instructor was big into this thing called yoga tune-up. So yoga tune-up is all about getting these different like tools. Most of them are slightly squishy balls, kind of like a lacrosse ball, but squishier, of different sizes and different squishiness.
Okay.
And then so like if you take that, right, and then map it to what I learned in massage school, you can like figure out, okay, this is piriformis. Right.
Yeah.
I know where I need to put my alpha ball to find my piriformis, and that'll help my my lower back pain. Right. So I went through that whole thing. So now when things hurt, at least I know what to do.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And that's empowering, right?
It is.
You aren't going to be in pain. You don't have to go see somebody. You're
I'm still going to be in pain.
Well, okay, fair.
Yeah. So like it's mostly what it comes down to is like, I just went through like the worst. It was multi-week hip pain. Like, okay. So usually hip pain means I need new shoes.
Okay.
Right. So like, because of my walking pattern, and we walk a lot, that's our thing. That's my jam. As soon as one heel is a little bit lower than the other heel, then that hip hurts. Right.
Okay.
So throw away those shoes, but I already hurt. So now I have to.
Yep.
And I always, I don't know if you do this, but whenever I do therapy on myself, I go way too hard, and then I'm done for like a week.
Yeah. I can appreciate that.
Yeah. So that's one thing I haven't learned not to do yet. I always go way too hard.
But can you get your shoes on Amazon?
Wow. I wish I could.
No. Okay.
Send me a link.
I know, right?
I've gotten addicted to Under Armour shoes.
Okay.
So we buy
They're a good brand.
all of my shoes at Under Armour outlet store, and we wait.
Okay.
There's 2 50% off sales a year.
Yeah.
4th of July and Christmas. So
nice.
Yes. So I just bought 5 new pairs of shoes.
So you're good for a while.
I'm good for a while. Yes.
Yes.
I swap them out every 6 months or so.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, good. Yeah. No, because you're right though, and if you could figure that out, then you could get ahead of that pain and swap them out beforehand. Yeah.
So are you doing like that sort of thing for yourself?
Oh,
because you're not a PT, right?
Right. Well, I am.
Oh, okay.
I am. Yeah. Yep. So that's my background, actually. Yep. Sorry. No. So
I'm sorry.
I went to school for PT. So that's where my doctorate is in. It's physical therapy.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. And so no, I mean, but I actually had a PT appointment this afternoon for myself because there's only so many things you can reach, right? And I get to a certain point and I call a friend because I know better, right?
Smart.
I need to stay ahead of those things. And when it starts to bother me, I need to get in and take care of it because otherwise it does set me back. And,
right.
And so, yeah, we do all the things to prevent that. But then there's still times where you need to have those experts on call. And that's part of kind of coming back to our initial conversation, having everybody under one roof. You know, I had a mom in a few weeks ago and she was like, hey, I need to make an appointment to talk with you about the functional medicine side of things. And also my son needs speech. Do you have any openings? And I was like, yes, this is why. Because moms don't take care of themselves when it's not all under one roof. And I'm like, yep, we can do both of those. So
Oh, that's awesome.
being able to serve that is huge.
So you do like childhood speech pathology therapy kind of thing?
Yeah. So most of my team, as you were looking at, most of my PTs, OTs, and speech therapists work with kids.
Okay.
And then I have a dietitian, a PT who specializes in pelvic health for moms, but does a lot of orthopedic stuff as well.
Yeah.
And then my own, jumping kind of from PT. And I think these blend really nicely hand in hand, but working more in health coaching and functional medicine. So getting to that root cause of why do you feel that way? And what does your diet look like? How are you sleeping? And then if we need to look at, deeper dive into labs and things to support that, we can do that too.
But I mean, like when you started out, you said something like, it's all the same thing. It's not really all the same thing, but like they're all connected, right? So like as soon as you start sleeping better, that gives you a little bit more bandwidth. You start like drinking less booze.
Yeah.
Like that's like the big thing. Like if you're drinking like even like a beer a day, right? That's like too much.
It is. Well, and why, right? Like, are you drinking it because you truly enjoy it? Because most people aren't. They're drinking it because they're trying to sleep better, which it doesn't actually
help.
improve your sleep, right?
Trashes your sleep, yes.
Right, yeah,
You're trying to relax, right?
They're socially stressed. And so they're looking for a way to cope with that.
Or you want to party, right? You want to party, right? You want to find that Friday feeling.
Yep, right? Yep. Yeah, and so, I think that's a lot of it, right? Is getting to the why and what is it serving you? Because it's not serving you most of the time. But what are you trying to fill and how can we find a better way to do that? I think it's interesting, the numbers, the correlation between, for example, postpartum depression and sleep are huge. And so, there's so many opinions out there about like, should you sleep with your kids? Should you not? And at the end of the day, it's so personalized and nobody ever asks like, well, how are you sleeping? Like that never comes up until we say like, hold on, your health is important too. You can't take care of this child if you're not taking care of yourself. And so I think there's just so many systems that work in silos, right? The OBGYN isn't going to talk about how your child's developing. The child's development person isn't going to talk about how your health is impacting that. And so we kind of just bring it all together for our families.
Right. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, okay, let's see what else we can get into here, because I saw on your webpage, like, are you actually doing DNA sort of like testing at all?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. So
I
do. So
wow.
I love that stuff, right?
That's going to be the next thing, I think.
It is. Yeah. So I nerded out and I'm a never ending learner. So after I went down this path myself of I want to help people and I want to help people find this like root cause of what's going on, I jumped into functional medicine. So I went through a training program to specialize in that. Okay. And so functional medicine would be getting to the root cause of what's going on. And it really integrates a lot of the lifestyle pieces.
Right.
But we also take a look at how genetics and what we call epigenetics, like how your genetics are influenced by your environment.
Okay.
So what are you doing that's influencing your genetics and what do your genetics look like?
Okay.
That's a big component of it as well. And so I love to look at people's genetics and say, okay, well, you're predisposed to this. And so therefore we should do these things. And so they've come out with some really cool tests now. We can do certainly a bigger global test, but there's so much in genetics. So a lot of times I'll do that for a specific population. There's a test for working with women who are pregnant. So are you more likely to have gestational diabetes? Are you more likely to have preterm labor or those kinds of things? And then we can look at what are the recommendations based on your genetics that we can implement now so that you don't have these problems happen.
Yeah. It's sort of like, okay, so like, it's already known, like if a certain like marker, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like, it's sort of like it gives you a little bit more of a map.
Yep, absolutely. And so we can head off a lot of problems, right? Instead of waiting until you're in the situation where you're having preeclampsia or whatever, right? And you're ending up in the hospital and having this baby early. We can mitigate that and keep you healthy and keep your baby healthy by kind of following this roadmap and using your genetics as a guide. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about like just movement in general, like what you do. And like, I know there's yoga, right?
Yeah.
I like walking, Yeah. And then I also like to have like a little bit of like, I play with kettlebells in my patio. But not a lot. I think something is always better than nothing, right?
Absolutely.
Right. So I got like a 25 and a 35 and a 50, I think.
Okay.
Right. So that's fine. If I got like a couple more, my wife could play along.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. So like,
I love that.
What sorts of things do you recommend for your people as far as like movement goes?
Yeah. Yeah. So, as a PT, generally exercise is whatever you enjoy, right? So if that's dance,
Amen.
get out and dance. Yeah. I mean, move, right? Exactly. And movement is so important for our body's detox processes, for getting rid of the junk that we're going to interact with anyway, whether you've got a clean diet or not.
Right.
So I'm a huge on sweat, move, like get going, do something every day. Beyond that, there's certain things for certain populations. So I think muscle training, any sort of strength training, right? Gaining muscle is huge for women because they tend to start losing muscle because of hormone issues. So whatever we can do to maintain that is going to help them long-term with osteoporosis, with hormone issues, with all of that.
Right.
So I'm big on incorporating some, exactly. So some sort of strength training is really important, especially for women, but they don't always start there, and that's okay. Right. I think movement, let's start with moving. That's huge. And then the other side of that, I think, is so many women who come to us might be overtraining, right? They are trying to lose weight. And so now I'm working out twice a day and I've cut myself down to 1,100 calories. And it's like, okay, well, your body's gone into survival mode and it's not letting go of a single thing. So you've got to tone it down.
Yeah.
Right now your adrenals are failing and your hair is falling out. And like, we've created all kinds of other problems. And so I think, being able to tailor that to that individual. So we do a restorative yoga at our office because it's much more gentle. It's really designed to help with sleep. I love it for sleep. So we do that a couple times a month as well. And again, I think it just is so personalized. For me personally, I go to a CrossFit style gym. I like the high intensity workouts.
Okay.
I like lifting weights. I think that's fun. If it's a running day, you might catch me skipping.
Okay.
I don't love it. I have no love for running. And so I do it because running. It's important. Yeah.
I don't like, I walk. I would rather walk up a hill.
Yeah. Me too.
Right.
Twice. Yeah. For sure.
Just do up downs. I do my whole neighborhood is the side of a mountain. Right.
Okay.
If I want a little bit more, what do they call it? Zone 2. I'll do some up downs. I walk up this hill. I walk down this hill. I walk up this hill. At least I'm getting some sun.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's another important piece is get outside, right?
It is.
Whether you're,
it's huge. Yeah. So like I've got this song that I won't brutalize you with, but kettlebells and sunshine always helps you sleep.
Oh, that's funny. I like that. I think that might be my new one. I'll have to look that one up. Yeah.
It's kettlebells and sunshine always helps you sleep. There you go. So
it's true though.
It is true.
It is true.
So
I like it.
So like when you get into diet with people, is there like a starting point, or are you just sort of like clean, or where do you start with nutrition?
That's a great question. So a lot of my folks who are coming to me have come to me with a series of problems, right? Whatever that's gotten them there, whether that's gut health kind of issues.
So they've already got symptoms. And
they've already got symptoms usually when they're coming to me. So a lot of times we'll start with eliminating, like you talked about, getting rid of the big triggers, the gluten, the dairy, the sugar, for a period of time, going back to whole foods, clean eating.
Right.
But again, that depends on the individual. Some people say, I can't do that. It's like, okay, what can you do? Let's start there. Or work with a lot of kids, I've had women say like, my son's not giving up his chicken nuggets. That's like, okay, let's find a better chicken nugget,
Right.
So I think it's all about meeting people where they're at, but usually we're starting with cleaning out the junk in there to see how that impacts the rest of your health, because so many times the symptoms come back to that gut health. And if you're not eating the right things and you're putting in things that are creating an inflammatory situation, it's not going to get any better. So, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Sugar is just awful. Oh my God.
It is. And it is in everything. Like you said it. It's unbelievable. I mean, actually yogurt and salad dressings, I think, are two that like people just don't assume how bad they are for you, but they're so bad.
Well, so is there sugar? Now I have to go look because you made me think. So, is it always like the yogurt with fruit in it that has most of the sugar, or is it all of it? Oh,
almost all of it.
I learned something.
Yeah.
Crap.
Yeah. You'll have to go look.
Now I gotta
so
go
it depends,
look.
right? If you're a Greek yogurt eater, that's pretty good. There's
Yeah,
very
we're on
little in-
Greek, and we're
Okay, so
whole milk Greek is what
okay,
I
all
don't know
right.
if
You're
it's
probably doing
whole
okay.
milk
You're
is
doing
good
better
or
than
not.
most, for
Okay,
sure.
good.
Yeah. So most, I mean, so yogurt, you think about it, it's cultured with bacteria, right? That's how
Right.
they create it. And
Right.
so bacteria feeds on sugar. So there's going to be
That's
some
right.
sugar
You
component in
need
there.
some residual
Some
sugar,
food.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. So
Because
you're
of
going to get some
fermentation.
related to that.
Right.
But the problem is, most of them have 19, 20 grams. Now you've just added 4 or 5 tablespoons or teaspoons of added sugar to your little yogurt. It's like you aren't doing yourself any favors. You might as well just go grab a Snickers. So
Right. Yeah. And getting off of sugar, I think, was probably like the thing that added the most bandwidth in my brain, if that
Sure.
makes any sort of sense.
Yeah, sure
So
does.
like when I think about like other people trying to deal with life relative to me. Okay. So I'm like retired and have nothing to do. Right. So I have all the bandwidth.
Yeah.
Right. Very few people are retired with nothing to do. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like when I think about it, I'm like, oh yeah, it's super easy for me to just sleep in a couple extra hours, but most people are on a clock. And I
can't do that.
I
Yeah.
lived there for a long time.
Sure.
Right. So how do you address those sort of like I don't know, what do you even call that? Like lifestyle changes, right?
Yeah.
It's tough.
I mean,
I know it's tough.
Right, it is tough. Well,
Yeah.
and so part of it is most of the clients who are coming to us have gotten so tired of feeling the way they feel that they're willing to do whatever it takes.
Okay.
That said, we still do a very
It's almost like what you can do, right?
Yeah. Yeah. What do you have control over? Right. There are certain things you can't control.
Yeah.
But we work with them on a program. Like it is a 16-week intensive program because it is hard.
Yeah.
And
it's
having
super
people, right? So sending somebody away and saying, oh, do this, you'll be fine. Most people won't stick with it because it's hard.
Yeah.
It's not how the rest of your household functions. It's not, and then you're like, I'm miserable, right? Because going through that detox period where you get off the sugar is hard.
Ugh.
Yeah. And so people are like, why should I quit? This isn't any fun when you
Right.
can't see what's on the other side of it. Right.
I went through that. What do they call that? Like detox flu? Is that?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. There's a couple different terms for it, but that's one. Yeah. Yeah.
You just feel like you're hungover all the time.
All the time. Yeah. And days 5 to 7, if you're deciding maybe I'm going to give up sugar after you're listening to this, days 5 to 7 tend to be the worst. Right. So you're going to feel really crappy. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay.
It's literally like you have a flu.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or a hangover. Right.
Right. Yeah. And that's the other thing I tell people is make sure that you're doing this in a time period where you can do it. Right. So prep your house, right? Because it's really easy when you feel that crappy to go back to what feels comfortable. But also maybe wait until days 5 to 7 are going to fall on the weekend and you can relax a little bit.
Yeah, time that out, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Good idea.
Yeah, don't put yourself in a situation where you've got a big presentation at work and you feel your worst.
Yeah.
No benefit in that.
Days 5 to 7. I had a friend while we were still active duty was doing one of those fasts at work. All he was drinking was like the lemon juice and cayenne pepper and water.
Right.
You know that one, right? And I was like, are you really doing this at work? So
I'd love to say I'm smarter than that, but last year I decided, because I try just about everything that comes out, right? Like, yeah, you've got to. And if you're going to recommend it for somebody else, you should probably try it yourself. So I did a fast, it was like a 10-day fast, but I started it on like right off. My son was sick. My husband had been sick. I had been a little sick. Day 3, I fell hard. I got so sick because my body had nothing to fight with. And I was like, in hindsight, I'm like, you're an idiot. And I would have told you were an idiot if you came to me, but instead you did this on your own because you think you're resilient. And so I'd love to laugh at your friend, but I've been there. So.
Have you experimented at all with like intermittent fasting where you just sort of like skip breakfast a little bit or something?
Yeah. So I have a little bit.
Okay.
And I think like I said, I work a lot with women. So the interesting thing is most of the research that's been done so far has been done with men, and it is with most of the hormones things. So I would say
that's
for
a really
women,
big conversation that you just brought up there.
Yeah, I know, right? We could talk for another hour.
Right.
I know. So I think it's really important, and that's part of why we do what we do, right? Is we're so women focused. But For most women who are premenopause, it's not a great idea. And so I've experimented with it a little bit, but I think if people are interested in it, longer windows, right? So and here's the other thing. I did it with my husband. We both did a 16-hour fast and 8-hour eating. He dropped weight like that. I didn't change anything. I was just hungry and miserable. Right, so I think, that's the other frustrating part.
Men and women are different,
Yeah, we are.
Hugely
we are.
different.
And it's, and
hormonally and everything. Yeah.
Everything, right? Yeah. But especially prior to menopause, I would say longer windows, and my dietitian preaches on this a lot. Like a 10-hour eating window or even a 12-hour eating window, which is pretty easy to do.
Yeah.
Is a much safer one to manage our hormones, especially when people are having other struggles, whether that's weight or hormones or other things too.
When I first tried it, I thought it was pretty easy not to eat breakfast. Right?
Yeah.
You just go to work. I still drank coffee.
Sure.
If I felt hangover, I would have my electrolyte salt thing.
Yep.
Right. And then I would eat lunch at like 12:30, And what I really found is way better than that. There was I think it was Dr. Peter Attia. He talked about just have a keto-esque breakfast.
Yes.
Right? And then that way you maintain ketosis
for longer, but you've had food. Yes, totally.
So you don't get that sort of like blah.
Yeah.
And if you get to that blah, then you're really, that cheeseburger looks way better.
Yeah, right. Well, and I think that's one of the mistakes people make, right? Whether you're talking about like an intermittent fasting like that, or sometimes people will do like an every other day fast. That's another route I've seen. Is they're so hungry when they go to eat, they eat like everything, and it's like your body reacts, right? Like you're like, now I just had donuts and McDonald's and whatever else. Like,
10 bear
you're not doing yourself any favors, right? Yeah, exactly. At 10 a.m. Because and so I think that's the other side of it. Is like, if you're going to do that, it's not an excuse to like eat whatever you want in that 8 or 12 hours. You still have to eat within the scope of whatever you're trying to achieve for your body.
I did the Tim Ferriss 4-Hour Body, right?
Okay.
And he talks about how like, hey, I think in paragraph 1, he'll say, you get a cheat day, right?
Yeah.
And on cheat day, you can eat anything you want, right? And then 2 pages later, he says, here's how to mitigate your cheat days. And I'm like, screw you. You just told me I could eat anything I want.
It's not fair. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, it took me a long time, but I decided to go ahead and try to mitigate a little bit.
Yeah.
But I really do. I still enjoy all cheat meals as much as possible.
You should. Yeah. You absolutely should. Totally. And I'm a big firm believer in that too. So you asked about like, where do we start? And we might start with this restriction, but it is supposed to be temporary. And then you start reintroducing things because you should enjoy food. I mean, I think
enjoy
it's such
life.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Right. So, I mean, there are things that I've cut out of my diet because I know they don't serve me and my body well, but that doesn't mean I don't ever have them or that I'm meticulous and like this 100% of the time. Right.
So where are you on like protein shakes? Are those still a thing or not?
Oh,
I don't know anymore because it's almost like if you're not working out like a lot, you don't really need it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the hard part is, right, we still live in this society where everything moves at this pace, right? And so to have enough foods with enough protein in them, especially for women, and we talked about the importance of muscle mass and things like that.
Right.
Blood sugar regulation. There's so many values to having enough protein that I would say I'm not opposed to them as something to supplement to make sure you're getting enough protein in your day in order to maintain those health goals, but also to keep you from reaching for that sugary snack at 3:00 because you're crashing, right? So if you get enough protein, you'll stabilize longer. So I'm careful about what protein.
Totally.
Particularly,
a lot of them are junk. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So picking out a really good protein for you that's going to meet your health goals and meet your needs. I don't do a lot of dairy.
You've already done a DNA screen, so maybe that.
Yeah. So you know that. Yeah. I mean, actually, so it's funny. I found out when I did my own genetics that and no surprise, I don't handle dairy well. And I've known this, but I'm a Wisconsin girl, right? Like I grew up on dairy.
You can't not eat cheese.
I can't not eat eat cheese, right?
Right.
And so I had gone through a thing when I had my son, actually. He didn't tolerate dairy. And then I found out in giving it up for him that I didn't either. The results that I had were remarkable. And I already knew that, but it just solidified for me. And so, yeah, genetically, I know that's not something I process well. And so I'm selective. I don't do even whey protein, which for most people who don't tolerate dairy, that's okay. But,
Right.
you've got to be intentional about what you include, whether that's health products or not. They have to serve you. So,
Gotcha.
yeah.
So where are you on greens? Are you a big greens person or not?
I think there are so many good qualities of greens. I would love to tell you I eat them every day. Actually, my dietitian lives like 5 houses down and she grows her own. So when they show up on my front porch, I eat them every day. They're so good. But like, am I the one who cooks them every night? No.
Okay.
No, I throw them in my smoothie.
Yeah. That's what I do.
I'm getting better about it, right? And I'm trying to find ways to incorporate them more because I know how good they are for me.
Right.
But again, I'm also the person who lives in this society where we're running from place to place and baking them and creating them and making sure they're good for me. I don't have as many as I should, but I think they're probably in the top 10 foods we should all have. Yeah.
So I hung out with a bunch of like raw vegans for a long time. Right.
Okay.
So raw vegans are like, I'm not raw and I'm not a vegan, but some of their food is amazing. Right.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
Right.
Absolutely.
So they got me into this whole like green smoothies are awesome. And I had to agree. Right. So I kind of got addicted to green smoothies.
Yep.
So we just make like a blender a week. And that makes like 4 little, they're not quarts, but they kind of look like miniature quarts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect little, I love that.
Then, that's just like, that lasts a week, right? So it's like yogurt, green smoothie with coffee, and then maybe the little keto breakfast.
Perfect.
It's what I can do.
I was going to say, it's excellent, right? Like it's better than driving through McDonald's on the way to work or even Starbucks where you're going to get a bunch of crap, right? So I think if you can do something that you prepare ahead of time, it's meeting those health goals, getting your nutrients in, that's huge.
And when I go visit my family, that's the first thing we do. It's like we have to go shopping for the smoothie ingredients.
Okay. I like that. I love that.
It's great.
Yeah.
Yes.
I usually do. This morning I had one with berries. I actually throw frozen cauliflower in there if you've never done that.
Okay. I've never tried cauliflower in a smoothie.
It creates like riced cauliflower will just make it creamy. You don't taste the cauliflower and it's frozen. So it adds some cool.
That might be a good replacement for a banana.
Yeah. Sometimes I do both.
It's almost like you don't want to have a smoothie without a banana.
Yeah.
Because the banana just gives you it gets you over the hump. It's either going to be a banana or too much peanut butter.
Right. Fair enough.
You need something to make it not
entice
taste like
you.
grass.
Yeah. I can appreciate that. Yep.
But I also put like a scoop of protein shake in there too.
Yeah.
Which is sweet.
Very similar. And then I add the cauliflower.
So mine is like kale. It's supposed to be kale, chard, spinach.
Okay.
So these are variable. So not every smoothie. It's like, oh, we forgot kale. Double the spinach. You just make it easy. Whatever's in there is better than McDonald's.
Yes.
Exactly. But it's carrots, tomatoes, blueberry, avocado, protein shake. What else? Water, of course. Banana. Kale, spinach, chard. Chard doesn't stay good, so we quit chard.
No, I was going to say I can't imagine that in a smoothie. Yeah,
it tastes good. It's just it won't even last a week in the fridge.
Yeah. Okay.
Right, but kale stays forever, and you can get frozen spinach. So anyway, all the little things.
Yeah, right. And it's just that journey to better health, right?
Right.
Like there's little things. If you make one small change every week, you'll be well on your way.
To me, it's easier for me to eat or drink a smoothie than make a salad.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
I can buy that.
I used to actually take a salad and dump it back into the blender and throw a smoothie in there and just make a bigger smoothie. I'm a little weird.
I like that. See, I enjoy salads, but I don't like preparing them. So if everything shows up in my house ready to go, I'm like, this is the best salad ever.
Right. So Trader Joe's has like these really great pre-made salads that I was addicted to forever, but they're expensive and they keep going up. So it's like you're paying like more than $5 or $7 for a salad.
Yeah.
that you can make at home for, really cheap. So
Exactly.
anyway, and then
Yeah.
my jaw got really sore
Oh, yeah. That's
munching
not
all
good.
that damn salad.
And right. Yeah. Chewing and chewing and chewing.
Make the
That's so
blender do
funny.
it.
There you go.
Dr. Jenny at altogetherwellness.net. This has been a blast. Talk a little bit about how people can best get in touch with you and learn about how to join your village.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for that.
Florida.
In Jacksonville, Florida. So I will say our functional medicine programs, our dietitian, and any of our coaching programs, we will see people anywhere. So if you've got internet and you're listening to this, find us online, www.altogetherwellness.net. And we have a place there you can book a call with us. We can talk a little bit about what your goals are, whether that's, hormonal issues, or you want to find out more about your genetics, or we can coach you and help you on how to just create that better, healthier family unit through our village. Then we are happy to do that. So thank you.
This has been a blast.
Thank you. It has been. Thank you for having me.
What about Jordan Love? Is he going to do really well?
Oh, I hope so. But, I will say it was time for us to make a change, but it's hard to go from having some really good seasons to having some rebuilding years.
You never know.
I know. Well, especially I'm married to a Giants fan. So, I never hear the end of it when we have a worse year than that.
Oh, Giants fan. And now Rodgers is on the Jets.
I know.
That's going to be weird for you.
I know.
You remember when Favre went to the Jets and then the Vikings?
The Jets and then Minnesota. Yeah, that was real big.
It was crazy. Yeah. Yes. Mm-hmm. But then I wanted to watch Favre more because I didn't care if he won or lost.
True.
So that's what we get to look forward to. You can watch Rodgers and not give a shit whether he loses.
That's I like that thinking.
Yeah.
For sure.
He's still fun to watch.
That is true. Yeah. And now even more fun because I have no skin in the game.
That's right.
I love it.
All right, Dr. Jenny, you have a good one. Thanks.
All right, you too. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for taking the time to ride along with us on another episode of Vroom Vroom Veer. For podcast info and show notes, be sure to head over to vvveer.com. That's VVER.com. Man, that's fun to say. And we'll catch up with you next time here on Vroom Vroom Veer.